What's going on, team? What's going on, Nita?
Hey, can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect. Can you?
Okay. Okay, let me turn you up. Okay.
So, I will need you to lead today.
All right, you're in the car. All right. All
Yeah,
right, welcome.
yes.
Okay, go ahead and intro us then.
Yeah, so what's
And
going
I'll
on,
get
team?
started.
This is Transformation Tuesdays with Coach Troy and Coach Netra. This week we are in our nutrition reset. Last week we talked about why you may have been stuck, our last session that we had here. So today we are really locked in on the reset that can actually catapult you forward. So I'm going to let Netra introduce and let you guys know who and what she does as well.
All right. I'm Coach Netra. I am a nutrition and lifestyle coach and a menopause coaching specialist. And I get the opportunity to work with Troy and his team. But more importantly, I get a chance to help mainly women, but also men as well, on living the healthiest lifestyle they can and understanding that body composition that they want so we can get the longevity. Now, of course, Troy's in the car today, so I'm kicking us off. And a lot of this one is when we think about nutrition, so often we think about, hey, I eat so clean. And those of you who listening later, you're gonna have to drop us a comment. So often that's what people say. I eat so clean, but I don't see results. And so today, that's going to be the premise behind how we actually get to fat loss, and not in a trendy way, but in a way that actually works. Because when we think about clean eating, it's not just about eating clean or eating right, it's about the structure behind what you do so that you don't just spin your wheels. Now,
Yeah.
I'm sure Troy has a lot of clients just like that too.
Yes, I do. And I have a lot of people that are stuck in certain situations, but what do you do? Like we had somebody this morning. Can we talk a little bit, just go off this topic a little bit of how we're trying to reset this individual that we dealt with this morning?
Yeah. And so often when we think about I'm working out all the time, and people are not realizing you can't outwork the I'm okay with my food, or I do all right. And in order to lose weight, you literally do need to be in a deficit, period. And oftentimes, I think people in today's world, we are forgetting that no matter what we hear, no matter the trend, the new fad, whatever, you still got to be in a deficit. And oftentimes, people aren't sure how to get in the deficit. And so they really spin their wheels and they really struggle with making food decisions that really support that lifestyle. But they also have too many days of the week where it's not aligning with their goal.
Yeah, but like you said something today to him about what did you say? You said the percentage of time, right?
Yeah.
Like this is your percent. This is it's so breaking down and having people understand like no, this isn't not a new norm. This is your norm and you're trying to live outside of it. And like, can you explain how you said that
Yeah.
again and how you that was really good today.
So when you think about weight loss and living a sustainable life, so often we just hear like 80-20, right? But for the majority of people who are actually trying to lose weight, it's not 80-20. It's more like 90-10 in order to get there. But what
90-10.
happens is more like 90-10, right? Of what we need. But what happens is, let's say someone travels for work, right? These are the things that normal adults go through. If you have kids, you have a spouse, you want to go out to eat, you have to travel for work, you're on a plane, you're in meetings, conference call, conferences, all these things. But oftentimes what's happening, we make reasons for what's happening in my life as though that's not my 90%. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're at the meeting and you feel like, you know what, I'm going to struggle because I have to go out of town for work, or you know what, I have the kids, or I'm at this meeting and everybody ordered lunch. But the fact is, that's your 90%. That's your life, and we have to treat that like your life. So what happens is a lot of people try to treat their 10, right? Like they're 90, and they keep throwing in their 10 within the 90, which is your work day. That's
Yeah.
not your social hour. And so we have to be very clear on when you have a goal, or even if you're trying to build sustainable habits, the majority of your week is what you will see in your results. And if the majority of your week entails, I travel for work, I'm in meetings, then you still have to treat those occurrences like normal parts of your life and not an event. It doesn't matter that today, hey, I have to go out to dinner with clients. It's not your social hour. That's part of your work life, which is your 90.
Hmm. And what was that secondary portion that you we talked about? Even once the individual left, and you said you just really have two different options.
Yep. And it's going to be, we all have different aspects of life where we can feel like, man, that makes it hard. Like my life is different. My situation is different. No, everybody has something that's unique to their life. But what you have to look at is if you feel like something is a struggle, we have to look at it's a yes or no. And everybody listening, I really want you to think about that, because sometimes that's hard to really break down why I'm successful versus why I'm not. And when you look at it yes or no, and I like to call it these two things: either you don't know how to do it or you don't want to do
That's
it.
what it
And
was.
you
That's what
have
it
to
was.
decide, which one are you? If you don't know how to do it, that's what we can help you fix, right? And then you just have to do it from there. We're teaching you how to do what you need to do. But
Yeah.
sometimes what's happening is that you actually just don't want to do. And then you have to decide, is it that you don't want to do? Because
And
nobody
that's
can help you when you don't want to.
and that's where we were getting at, where I was
Yeah.
getting at with that person was like we have similar pathways with, the reason why they were saying that they weren't going to be able to handle the situation. And it was like,
Hmm.
You just sound like you don't want to, or you haven't, or like you said, you don't know
Hmm.
how to. And I think once you were able to break that down for the person, um, I believe that that's going to help them out a lot. And that person being very forthcoming with just admitting, like, you know what, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have had the ego to be able to say I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know if I know how to. I mean, I know I just came to you for some advice for a reset, right? We just had our own. If we're just talking about our clients, I'm your client as well. So just trying to think about how I needed that reset. And could you explain how you had to help me with the reset?
Yeah. And so, everybody, listen, when you think about what Troy just talked about with being able to decide if you are the I don't know how to do, I don't want to do, sometimes you got to be okay. It's the honesty of where you're really struggling, because
Yeah,
you don't want to tell your coach, like, hey, I really just don't want to do that, because that somehow makes it sound like you're less devoted or you're less committed. No, we have to be realistic about your life. If you know that you want to do something with your kids, or you know you need to do something with a spouse, and that's part of your life non-negotiables, then we've got to pull that in, because that's a part of your life. And if we keep ignoring big parts of your life, you won't be successful, because you're always going to revert back to this part of my life. So, like, for example, Troy, just over the weekend, he's trying to compete. He's doing the high rocks. He's trying to do the Ironman. He's been doing all his exercises and he's eating all his meals. And he said, hey, you know what? I just feel like my body's not transitioning like I want to. But I know that took a lot for him to say, but it was
yeah.
just like, hey, let's just take a peek. Let's just look at what we're doing. But the fact is, some of it just wasn't aligning with Troy's natural body type, his natural tendencies, and what we've done in the past that we know works. It was just a little more than he needed. So we made some tweaks. So I know next week he's gonna see what he wants to see just from those tweaks.
So when we're talking about that, right, how important do you feel fueling for the right type of training is? Like is there a difference in fueling for the for specific, and do you believe bad fueling equates to um diminished results and return on their efforts, performance?
Absolutely. Because see, when we are looking at like social media, or you guys, sometimes we're looking at, say, your favorite person you follow. What you don't know about that favorite person you follow is their normal tendencies or their natural body. Give you an example. Sometimes we're looking at people who have developed a body over time, who naturally don't carry more muscle, who naturally may be very slim. Then, when we put that up against somebody who naturally has, say, more muscle, who naturally is a stockier build, It
Mm-hmm.
means that the fuel load needs to be different because they carry the weight different, they carry the muscle different, their cardiovascular health is different. And so there's times when it feels like, oh, we need all of this. But when we know a person, then you're able to say, you know what, this person doesn't need 250 carbs to be able to run a marathon,
Yeah.
because that's not their normal tendency and that's not how their body mechanics work, versus a person who, if we put them at 160 carbs, they're going to struggle because that's not their normal body. They need more because they are a different build. So we have to look at what's right for the person, and the way to find it out is asking them, hey, when you think about times that you performed at your best, or the times when you've seen your body transform the most, what felt the best to you? What were you eating? And that's how you're able to tell, is that a person who is more carb heavy or more fat load heavy? Because protein is going to be pretty consistent across a person's life and a person's body based on what they need and the muscles that they want to hold. But carbs and fat will play into what is the person trying to do. So if we're trying to run a marathon, we're going to need more carbs, but they need to be timed. If we're trying to build muscle, grow muscle, it means that we need to fuel them in a different way to grow and repair. So it's very specific to what you're trying to do. But in an everyday world, most people, that's not that detailed. If you're just trying to lose weight and be fit, then you're
Mm-hmm.
in a deficit where the carbs are on the lower end anyway.
Yeah. So what? So since we're talking about being in a deficit in diets, why do you believe that most diets fail?
Most diets will fail because it's not the quantity of food, it's not the low carbs. I really do think that most adults realize that when you're trying to lose weight, especially ladies versus men, you're going to have a lower carb load because that is the thing that is helping you get to the deficit, because we're not deficiting protein. That's not what we're doing. But we also have to then control fat. But the problem is, when you snatch away everything that someone likes, this is
Mm-hmm.
where preference matters.
Mm-hmm.
When you take away things that it's someone's natural likes and it's something that they eat on a regular basis, and you take it all away, that's never going to be sustainable, because at some point they're going to put them all back in and they never learned how to manage quantity and frequency. We said that earlier today.
Yep.
And so you have to learn how to do that, because that's how you build a habit. And so we can't strip you down so far that everything that you're eating feels like somebody else's life. It
Yeah.
feels too foreign for you. It can't, because you won't ever be able to maintain that. I don't care what you do. There's not enough discipline in the world to fix preferences.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that somewhat with exercise is the you know, the older I'm getting in training and the more wise is sometimes I'm trying to figure out when we're not in an actual competitive state of just making sure that fitness is still fun, and
Mhm.
having and trying to figure out how to have activities around it and not just always be so strict and about this. So there are modalities that I miss when we would do some boxing things and just different things is always opposed to feeling like we're in this gauntlet of competing. So I even myself I feel like we need to get back into that for training. But yeah, I do think that that's one of the most difficult task is to change everything. But before we transition into anything else, can you go back to remember when we were talking earlier about the substituting and trying to like create this mischievous
Yeah.
difference and but blend it together? And what do you think that does to people's psyche during these type of times? And is it helpful to try to make your whatever pizza or something, or instead of just getting the real thing and like you said, having it in the right doses, right?
What we're talking about earlier is food hacks.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give everybody one of the latest examples is everybody is using like Biscoff cookies to make like healthy cheesecake. Two things: healthy cheesecake,
I think it sound right.
right? And then healthier desserts. Okay. But here's the problem. Oftentimes, when we spend that much energy, a lot of brain power trying to healthify things that actually just are not considered healthy, because you must understand healthy versus something bad for you, two different things.
Yep.
And everything that we eat is not about, it has to be the healthiest item for you. That's not real living. And when you do that, that is a very disordered type of eating. However, you have to do things in a frequency and a quantity that makes sense. So when we try to over healthify food or either try to hack our way into eating things that we love that you know are like junk food, what that does is it creates this space where you probably are still going to be over caloried and you still haven't learned how to eat the thing you like in the quantity and frequency that match your goal, short and long term. So what we have to look at is how do we keep these things in a rotation? That's the regular cheesecake that you learn how to eat the slice, eat
Mm-hmm.
half the slice, have a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. What is the frequency? Is maybe that's every 2 months for you, right? Maybe there's some like pizza that you like and you have that pizza night that's, once a month. If you're right in the middle of trying to lose a significant amount of weight, you have to learn how to eat normal everyday foods that aren't like healthy.
And
And when we
last
try
thing
to
in that,
hack our way to it, it's you're not going to be successful.
in that space right there, before want you to hit on like the reset framework. When you say you're learning those, how do I put this? Like right now, could I go in have a cheat meal? How do you feel about those meals in the middle of when someone comes to us and says, I want to lose 20, 30 pounds immediately? Are they able to still have those, or is it like you can't because that, but then I feel like that's where some of the failure comes because they have this mindset in their head of trying to reach this fast, and you're like, well, it could happen, but it's not realistic. But I'll let you touch on it. You know what I'm saying? Like
So
in a
so
deficit or in that weight
often,
loss journey, like something specific, can you still have your
yep.
refeeds or whatever?
So I'll give you and those listening, y'all have to tell us if this is you. So often when someone's going to start a journey, the first question they ask is, do I get cheat meals? Vocabulary alone is already setting us up for something because you look at people like, say, The Rock, right? And he's having cheat meals on a regular basis. We are not The Rock, right? And so you have to
That
understand like
was
the
a perfect
level
example.
of intensity behind the training, the supplements, the weightlifting schedule, the food routine that is extremely regimented. Make no mistake,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's not real life. This man gets paid to look a certain way,
Yeah,
period.
yeah.
Right?
A
That's
lot of money
not,
needed to look
that's
a
like a
certain way.
what that's like the 1% of the world. But sometimes because we see that so often, you think that that's what normal people do. No, that's a one percenters. That's top one percenters. That's not everyday living. And so we have to be very careful with that. So when he's saying I'm gonna eat a cheat meal, that's a different vocabulary. When someone, a regular everyday person, even an actual athlete, right? Who may not necessarily be a professional athlete, even if they
Mm-hmm.
are. But the thing is, what you're trying to get to is you have to eat in a way that still makes sense. And you have to know that if I want to go out to a restaurant while I'm in this caloric deficit, you can still do that. But it's frequency and quantity
Yeah.
that you have to get used to. However, there is a time, especially people who have struggled to lose weight for a very long time, that mentally you may not be ready for that item because you cannot do that just yet, have some and walk away. So it has to be timed based on the mentality of the person and can you handle it yet? Example, can you handle chocolate being in your home? Can you handle a cookie being in your house with not you eating the whole pack of Oreos? Right. So we have to build that into someone. So that's like I always say, there's different levels. You might want some level 5 skills, but
Mm-hmm.
you're at level 1 in your brain. And so we
Mm-hmm.
have to wait. We have to wait a little bit to build up your skills to get to a place that you can do that. And that comes with time.
Yeah.
So take those things out of your vocabulary. Eating well and having structure to your routine has nothing to do with cheat meals. That's just normal living.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that part. So like I said, let's not make a strong pivot, but just going into what the reset framework
Mhm.
is. So, like we are talking about this nutrition reset. So what do you think are the top pillars? What is it, about 5, 6 pillars of transition
Mhm.
for this framework?
Yeah. And first things first, understand what a reset is. It's helping people trust eating again. Trust real food. What do we mean by that? It means trusting that you can actually eat a normal meal and you're not protein shaked out, that we can actually have breakfast, lunch, and dinner and it still be
Yeah.
okay, that you don't have to drink two protein shakes and one meal to be successful, or that you don't have to rely on chicken and broccoli, right, to be successful. It's
That's one
trusting
thing that
that.
I'm upset. Like people, they really lose the tail in the word of supplement, and it's supplementation if I can't, or if this is the best route. But they're often, most of the time, the natural route is the best route for these things to be there. And then you always have or playing a space in my head of, we haven't seen studies yet on these things, and what is it going
Yep.
to do, 20, 30 years down the road, when we've been having protein shake after protein shake, and the FDA doesn't even clear protein, powders and supplements, so
Yeah.
anybody can put anything out there.
People have to remember that
So
protein
that's
shakes, protein powders, those are supplementation for undercaloried individuals or individuals who cannot take in a certain amount of protein. They're convenience items, but they are never supposed to be your everyday. And
yeah.
the only time someone probably will use them every day is someone who is a competitive athlete in a competitive season, which is short term. It's not all year. It may be a 2 month span where somebody who is a competitive athlete needs to use them because their caloric load is 3,000 plus, right? It's that type of stuff. But again, we're talking about 5% of the world, not your average everyday man and woman who just wants to be fit. The
Hmm.
majority of people can eat the right amount of protein that they need for them, but you may not know how and you may not be used to it because you're not used to eating meals again. So that reset is helping you understand how to put meals back together and trust it and know that at first it can be challenging because it feels different. It's
Yeah.
it's less calories, but the density, it feels so much heavier, but it's
Hmm.
going to sustain you. So that's part of that. Knowing that carbs are okay, but for many people it's timing them. And I'm not talking overcomplicated cycling and all these things, but it's when do you really need them? Because the majority of adults, remember, the majority of adults in the United States, even individuals who exercise, it's proven that they don't have more than 3,000 steps in a day. 3,000, right? So when you think about that, if you don't have any movement, carbs are the thing that help you with that movement. And if you don't have any, they aren't necessarily the thing that you need the most.
Right.
They are the secondary thing to
Right.
help you exercise, to help you fuel your brain, but and they're part of your fiber sources. So that's really what we're talking about.
Mm.
Proteins and fats are things that help organ function, help you absorb food. That's different. They help you with strength. That's a completely different subject. Okay.
Yeah.
And then just enough calories to recover your body. That's why I say this is about creating simple ways for people to live a life sustainably with the right type of fuel at the right time to help them be their most successful.
Quick question. So I've seen a few things right now. I try to do it myself already, but it's just having fueling up with protein first thing in the morning before allowing carbs to be there, just to make sure that, and it, like you said, it's more dense, so it gives me this longevity of satiation, so I feel satiated and full for a while, a little bit longer. Um, I felt it. I felt good. Like you said, I've been able to train off of it and everything like that in the morning. So, do you look at, not necessarily when you're saying timing? I know that that's not necessarily where you were going, but just trying to have protein in abundance early. The earlier the better, or is it anything to that?
So for protein, it's really going to be, folks, about the entire day's worth. And then anything when you think about as early as possible, it's going to be preference to the person and the athlete because there's some of you who cannot function well without it. You can't train
Hmm.
with it. It's no matter the time. It could be 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, but you need something to make it through your workout because that's how you feel. Then there's
Yeah.
some people who, no way, it's never going to happen and you don't need to stress over it. Protein intake is about what happens for the entire day and not necessarily that it needs to be so smack in the morning. However, it needs to be in every meal And it needs to be in some of the first meals that you have of the day. Granted, that might be at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock. It depends on the person. But as long as we start off the day with it, you're going to find that you're more satisfied and we're more satiated through the day. Just 1 second.
Yep. Yeah, guys. So just think about that. Make sure that we understand that consistency is the number one thing. Consistency before creativity, right? So we don't want to be overly creative with all of these different hacks to try to come up with for nutrition. Just find things that you enjoy, and just really lock in on those. Make sure that you have your timing down on when you're going to eat. Try to be consistent with eating at the same time because your body fuels off of that. It gets adapted to those things. You don't want your body going into starvation mode because you've eaten Monday through Friday at whatever said time, 6 a.m., because that's what time you get up for work. But then on Saturday, Sunday, you sleep till 10, and now you're trying to make these catch ups on meals. It's really good even for your body to get the recovery, like she was saying, to try to stay in those spaces of making sure that you are going to bed at the same time, that you're waking at the same time, and that nutrition is staying very steady at the same time. And try not to deviate. I know for myself, whenever I get behind on water or nutrition and get started late, it's a battle to try to get back to that. One, for me, I'm not a big eater, so big bouts of protein is a lot for me to try to consume at one given time, and that's what I was going to bleed into to finish that one up. Is there any ramifications or anything for eating all of your protein at one time? Can our bodies endure taking high doses of protein at once? I know the old adage used to be we can only consume about 30 to 40 grams of protein at once, but now I know that they're like, hey man, that protein doesn't break down like carbs. It's not getting stored as fat. It's getting used up somehow, some way. What's your beliefs and how do you feel about that?
Yep. The latest research shows that it doesn't matter. You could literally have 100 grams of protein at one meal and still be fine.
Yeah,
Now, somebody may not be able to do that, but there are people who can, because
yeah,
there are people who literally only eat one meal a day. And everybody don't say, I'm not advocating for anybody to do that, but there
yeah.
are people who do it successfully based on their stature, their height, their current weight, and their goal, that they actually can do it. The
And
majority
protein
of people can.
sensitivity plays a part in there as well, of if they're going to break it down.
Yep, it becomes so personal. That's why there's some people who digestively are just fine with it. They can eat every single part of their day almost in one meal. There are some people who can do it successfully in two, no problem. There are many men who can literally eat 80 grams of protein per meal, plus their carbs, their fat load, and only eat twice a day very successfully. But that's not everybody. So that's why when it comes to nutrition and timing, it's so personal, because everybody cannot handle the same thing.
It's such a science, man. Even if you're the same height and body weight of someone, your lean muscle tissue may be different. So then your uh, BMR is different than somebody else's. They don't know that you get more steps in throughout your day, even though it just is crazy that it can be that pinpoint to specificity of the human, right?
Yep. Everybody's
Um,
different, because that's when you start talking about different levels of gut health, people who have sinus problems, people who take a lot of
and
antibiotics, people who take other medications. There's so many different reasons why
you should
someone
have a
may have
coach,
some struggle. And that's why you should have a coach.
and that's why you should have a coach
That
because
is
as
just
much as
why,
you just
because
are
it's
watching that
personal.
influencer on Instagram do whatever they're doing, you have no, especially if you're someone that has struggled in the
Yes.
past with things. If you're somebody who the weight flies off of you and you get back in shape, cool, kudos to you. But most people struggle. We just had that at the beginning of this conversation. I even was struggling this week, and it was like I needed to make sure that I checked in with my coach because I was about to be at my wits end. The frustration, the cortisol spike it was occurring.
Yep.
And I was doing the stressful thing of getting on the scale morning and night and just hoping that it was going to change, hoping it was going to change. And it just, barely changed one day, So it was just, I just feel
And
more sound right now, just being like, I put it in your hands. I'm going to trust the process, follow what you do. And we've hit it out the park, multiple times. So it's like, why not just believe in this process and follow along with your coach? And I just feel like it's, as much as we think that we're good on our own, it's always great to have that
yeah.
individual with you.
Man,
Um,
and just remembering for many of you listening, probably every 5 years or so, just evaluating like how your body responds. I can tell you flat out at a couple months shy of 50, I've worked out with Troy for 7 years. I can tell you that 5 years ago, the way that I could eat and things that I could do, and I'm not even talking about like junk food and snacks. I'm literally saying quantity of
mhm.
food is very different. I can think about in our very first prep, that is 5, 6, that's 4 years
20,
ago.
2021,
First, okay,
five
so
years ago.
the first prep 5 years ago, I will never forget because I couldn't even hold the weight. Like I literally had maybe like 100 and I think out of the gate, I probably had like 150, 160 plus grams of protein and like 250 grams of carbs. And I couldn't even hold the weight. It kept dropping and it was just like, oh my God, I can't.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't feel good that way. So I lowered it because this is when, I was like, I'm doing it. Troy did these. And I was like, you know what? Everything's fine. It's working as planned, but maybe I don't feel as comfortable, but we still did it. Then
Hmm.
everyone after that, it's like, I can't even do that anymore. And so it's like it changes. So that's 5 years ago. This body today, I promise you, doesn't require anywhere near the
Yeah.
same amount.
Yeah.
I can
It's
operate
like
based
you said the
on
other day.
something so different.
You built so much muscle mass now. Like the muscle mass was there, so it just changes your metabolism. The more
Yep.
muscle mass that you have causes more thermogenesis. So you're gonna go through these things and burn more, and it's easier. So you don't even have to put forth as much effort. That's why I'm
Yeah.
like, just
I
stay
don't have to do
consistent with
it.
the training as well. So I build up the muscle, and everything else just kind of falls in line when you have the muscle density, man.
Yep. And
Um.
especially when the objective is not to build the muscle, right? Because some of you
Hmm.
listening, you may be thinking, well, I want to do certain things, or you look at certain people, but you don't understand that they are already at the upper end of what their body's ever going to hold
Yep.
naturally. And what do I mean by that? Like when you think about on the low to the high, there's a range of low to high for every age group of how much muscle should be on somebody's body. On the low end, meaning that you won't have osteopenia or osteoporosis, right? We're trying or sarcopenia, certain amount of muscle. Then there's the high end. You maybe say, well, look at Troy, but Troy's bumping out of the high. We're not even in this range anymore. Or even for myself, we've
Yeah.
already bumped here. So you don't require the same
Yeah.
anymore because now it's just holding on to everything that
To
we have.
everything
And
I
we
got,
may
I ain't
nuance a
getting
little
no more
bit here or
muscle
there,
mass
but you're not growing much
naturally.
more from here naturally,
No,
meaning everybody
naturally.
without drugs.
Yeah,
We're already up here. So
that's
there's
a
no
fact.
loss. There's no loss happening because we're consistently training. So everything after that is around, there can be some composition changes, a little bit more fat, less fat, that
Hmm.
type of thing. But as far as building muscle, the food now is just maintaining and making sure we recover. But we're not in a position to keep trying to build because there is no more build unless there's something more focused and you're doing something so
Yeah,
specific to gain that.
to gain that exactly, 100%. So when you're thinking about how to possibly gain or lose, like we've been talking about, it's items that go on the plate, right? So you just got to make sure that we're focused on that. So do you have a plate method, or what people should be looking at to see on their plate consistently?
Absolutely. And so every single person, and y'all, this is every age group. And especially since we are talking to individuals who may be trying to look their best, or as you start to get older, and older just means one more year, one more year. We're not talking even to the level of, hey, I'm 60, 70, 80 years old, but it's still for these individuals as well. Protein and vegetables will always be first, always. Carbs and fats are about the goal of the person, but we should always have protein, veggies, and some type of fat source. The amount of carbs are going to be dependent on your level of training.
Okay.
And that is a very key word, training. Because if you are not actively training, your carb loads should be on the very low end because you are not utilizing them at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Especially if you're not getting
Yes.
plus 3,000 steps in, like you said, the
Yes,
average person gets
if
in
you're
there.
in that bucket where that watch tells you that your steps in a whole day don't even hit 3,000, or even your activity steps are 3, and maybe you walk around your house for another 1,000, your carb load requirement is
Yeah.
very low. You need some for the energy, for the things that you are going to do, but your
100%.
proteins, fats, and your vegetable carbohydrates and your fiber, those are going to be the things that help you sustain energy, help you sleep well, hormone control, all those things, right type of blood sugar balance. Carbohydrate load is based on how much output you have.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had that much carbohydrate load outside of my fruits and veggies, and I feel fine. And I'm
And you
running
feel
10
great.
miles, and like you said, it's. I'm not advocating to not have it. I'm just saying I feel fine off of not. So I promise you, if you're somebody that's not active, you could probably do without
Yeah.
a high dose of it, because it
You
will
don't
be
need as
the
much
fat
as you
stores
think.
that we're seeing.
So, and that's where it
And I'm
becomes,
training two to three times a day.
and that's where it becomes preference of what
Yeah,
type of carbohydrates, but vegetables will always trump. They
yeah,
will always be a part of the meals, but then the rest will be
yeah.
volume concerns. What can you handle? If you want some bread, okay, great.
Hmm.
Frequency and quantity matters for
Hmm.
you. If you like potatoes, rice, it doesn't matter. If you're a pasta person, it doesn't matter. But it is about what can your body handle? What does it feel best doing? And then frequency and quantity.
Okay.
So those things matter literally just based on what you are doing on a regular basis. But that's why you get a
Mhm.
coach, right? That's
That's
why we do
exactly
this. So when
why.
we talk about, this type of 12-week reset, these are the things that we're doing to help people reset their brain and their
Hmm.
body on what works for me. What do I truly need to be successful in a transformation, but also in everyday life?
So, um, kind of going over and wrapping myself around everything, or not wrapping my head around everything, but just going through some things that I see that people mess up on. I think is thinking that I think the confusion, even when we're going through prep, is like, so do I still have like my post workout shake? Do I still have all of the calories that I would have when I'm not training versus when I am training? And is that an issue? Is that something that people should be looking at? As far as when they train, should they have more calories versus when they're not training
So most people, this is, I know we get that question all the
all the
time.
time,
Do I
right?
still do my post workout? The post workout is going to be planned into your week every single day, whether you're training or not. But the point is, when you do train, we need it right then. That is the deal. But it's planned into your calories no matter what. But the timing of it matters on the day you're going to train. So that's where we say those carbs matter, but they are always going to be put inside of the caloric intake for the whole day.
Hmm.
Timing of it matters on training. And why we say that, sometimes people who train in the morning, that's when you're going to do it. If you train in the evening, that's when you're going to do it. On a
Yeah,
non training day, you're just going to put it in wherever you feel like it works best.
yeah, yeah. So it's no
Mhm.
need to have the fear of carbs.
Yep.
I think that the fear of carbs, like I said, I haven't had heavy doses or bouts of carbs right now, but that's just, if we're being honest, I'm sensitive. My gut is sensitive to it, so it causes
Mhm.
other things to start to occur for me, not just weight, because we've been through many of preps where I've had abundance of rice or things like that. So it's not that. It's just so I
Mhm.
don't want to put anybody in a space where they're thinking that carbs are a bad thing. It's just like you said, in moderation, and making sure that you are in the appropriate day-to-day living structure for the dose of carbs that you're having.
Yeah. And
Um,
those of you hearing him say he's lower on carbs, understand what he's meaning is
Lower on
he's
carb,
doing
yeah,
less starchy carbs,
that's
right?
what
And
I mean.
so
Yes, because
it's
my
less
carbs is
starchy
still super
carbs,
high.
but his carb load is really high because we're using different ones. And so that's
Yeah,
why I'm like, y'all, if it's not a protein or a fat, it's a carbohydrate. So we have so many options.
yeah.
And that's why it's so important to understand what a person needs. We're still trying to get a good amount of fiber, right? For the ladies, 25 to 28, almost 30 grams. Men can go anywhere from 30 to almost 40 grams of fiber a day. Most people are nowhere near that, right? And so our objective is to boost that even in a deficit, even in a prep, even in a reset, that we want to maximize the fiber load, but it can come in a lot of different ways. So it just depends on what works best for you. Some of you like a piece of bread. Some of you like, oh my God, it makes me feel sick. You don't have to have it. Those of you who like rice, great. If you don't, There's potatoes, there's other options. Some of you don't want starchy carbs at all. Great. We can still do vegetables and fruits.
And
Use
that's
a
what
little
I'm
bit of
seeing right
sweetener,
now is
and
like,
we see
man,
that it
when I
works just fine.
my carb load was still relatively high, and it was like, dang, I don't even have any
Mhm.
starchy foods in this. So but then I would start to think like, man, there's people that's probably eating what I'm eating plus having starchy foods plus not being active.
Yeah. And so this is when we
Then it
see,
happens so
I
fast,
call it
right?
like it's the self-sabotage. And you just don't know. That's all. And that's why having a coach everybody matters, because there are
Yeah.
things you just don't know because you feel like I eat clean.
Mhm.
Nobody said that there was a problem with your components.
Yep.
It's just
Yeah.
in the wrong combination for you.
Yeah. So, well, like she said, man, this is why you need coaches, and this is how you guys see drastic changes in our 12-week transformations is going through our program with the strength and conditioning, which we'll be focusing on next week, and then the nutrition with Netra. Man, we just have teamed up and been doing this now for what, 3 years now together.
Mhm.
Knocking this four. We're on our fourth year now with this
Mhm.
whole puppy, and it's been an amazing ride, right? But this is what we do, right?
Yep.
Um, so again, next week we'll be hitting up on strength training and why muscle makes the change and why it is the thought-provoking thing I feel like in strength and conditioning. Um, for my side is like just making muscle like we talked about earlier. It was that lean muscle tissue causes everything to change and how we've grown in our past 6 years of being around each other. We've seen both of our muscle maturity happen, and now we don't have to work as hard in our later years
Hmm.
in this training thing. So
Yeah. You want to
um,
talk about a hack or a cheat code? That's what next week is about.
yeah.
That's a
So
real cheat code.
yeah. So thank you guys for joining us. If you were watching this live, we appreciate you here. If you come back and watch it, please like and share this to an individual that could use a nutrition reset. I'm Coach Troy,
And I'm
and that
Coach
is,
Nisa.
and we'll be back with another Transformation Tuesday next week, y'all.